In today's journey, we're going to test a hypothesis that MoreBeer has altered the Flash Malt to be different than malt extract. While it is true that there is a lot of engineering that goes into the flash kits, we only want to test one variable at a time. And for us, the outlier was the extract, as it dissolves really easy, and we were interested to find out a bit more of why, how, and how it compares. Because in my experience, dry malt extract can be a bit of a pain to dissolve at times, even in hot liquids. Well, actually, especially in hot liquids. Surprisingly, the steam does not help at all. So we're going to start with the dissolve test, move on to the microscope, and then, just for shits and giggles, we'll ferment 2 batches. One will be following the directions, and the other will be using the malt extract blend we have here. We chose Golden Light and Pilsen Light to mimic more of a blonde ale style. But, we got things going on, so let's get into this. And we can see already that the flash malt is dissolving. Ooh, it's already dissolved, I guess. So right out of the gate, we can already see that the flash malt doesn't hang around on the top like traditional malt extract will. It falls to the bottom. It hasn't immediately dissolved as previously stated, but you can see it's fallen to the bottom, and now it's just slowly dissolving, almost like one of those Alka-Seltzer tablets. We'll go back and take a look at a few highlights we noticed there, but let's watch as the DME just sits on top and dissolves slowly. Exactly like I would expect it to. Almost as if it wants to dissolve, but there's a barrier of water getting in the way. So it just takes a little extra time. It'll get there. Just give it a moment. Whereas, look at that flash malt. It is just blowing away. Something is clearly going on. And it's not unnatural, because we can see that the DME's doing the same stuff, just not to the same extent. For example, chunks are falling, and they are dissolving into little bubbles that then rise back up to the top. So it's not acting different. In fact, it's doing the same thing, just to different degrees. Now, something that I think that we did mess up here is we shouldn't have used the Golden Light DME, as it's creating an extra color variance that is throwing off some of our tests a bit. But there is something really weird that's about to happen, and that's, strangely, even though one is developed to dissolve better, they both kind of finish automatically dissolving about the same time. It was a lot shorter in video, but 15 real-time minutes to fully dissolve, except for the flash malt doesn't look to be completely distributed. However, we can see that there is no more self-agitation, as we'll call it here, going on. So it's done. Almost as if it's waiting for the yeast to do that natural convection that you'll hear the guys from MoreBeer talk about in some of the videos. So we can confirm that what they're talking about is true, and that something is different, but we haven't proved what yet. Just that something is different, and that the flash malt is dependent on the yeast action for mixture. But something that we did observe is that at 3 seconds, the flash malt was already not floating as efficiently as the malt extract was. At 7 seconds, we can see the magic of the flash malt kit actually happening, where the bottom has completely fallen out and is on the fast track to being completely dissolved at 16 seconds. Except for it's not completely, was it? Because later on, at 15 minutes, we see that most of the sugar's just hanging out at the bottom and not completely dispersed amongst the vessel. We believe this to be a side effect of whatever they've done to create a more dissolvable malt extract. So interesting, but not conclusive in itself. But let's stick a fork in it and see what happens. Let's mix it up a bit and see how it reacts to that. And from the agitation, we're seeing not much froth. Whereas when we mix up the malt extract one, we're seeing some frothy foam forming up at the top. So we can probably conclude from this that the gases we saw escaping earlier did not escape from the dry malt extract until there was physical agitation. We did do a gravity reading at this point as well, but we found it to be within margin of error and therefore a moot point. However, the flash malt did register ever so slightly stronger. Suspicious, but again within margin of error and therefore moot. But let us know your theories, or actually hypothesis, of what they've done to make the malt extract act this way. However, before I've been allowed to tell you what our current theory is on that, please sit through this quick ad spot where we tell you please buy some of Phil's art. It's the best way to support the channel. Otherwise, check out our affiliate links and of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, now that that's over, let's get a closer look. And by closer, I mean through the microscope. And before we even get that close, we can already see there's a decent difference between the two. And I'm not just talking about the color difference, because for some reason in this shot, Phil grabbed the golden light instead of the Pilsen light. He fixes it in the next shot. Regardless, we can see a difference here, although it is a little slight. Both the Flash Malt and the DME are absorbing water from the air. They're hygroscopic after all, but the Flash Malt is beading a bit more. Maybe it's better to think of it as they're staying as individual grains of sand, although they are still getting wet and round. Whereas the DME is clumping. As you can see right here, a clump is forming. But anyone who's worked with DME before and forgot it out on the counter, we all know that that's just a matter of time before it becomes a sticky mess. And this isn't really that special until we take a even closer look. And now we can really see the differences between the two. The Flash Malt is little beads, even though it's still created a hard shell on top, classic just like the DME, whereas the DME is definitely showing more globular characteristics. And we believe this to be showing part of what's going on during the dissolve test. The Flash Malt is remaining small little individual bits, easier to flow down and up however it wishes to go depending on its buoyancy, whereas the DME globs together, forming more of a boat situation that floats on top, thus making it harder for it to self-mix. And despite the visual evidence being limited, we believe we can come to the conclusion that they aren't adding anything to the Flash Malt to make it mix better. Something has been processed different about the malt extract. And since spray malt is already done under vacuum, it makes me wonder what is going on. Is it happening during the spray malting, or is it something that happens afterwards, an additional process that could be done to basically any malt extract? And in fact, why isn't it a process that's done to all malt extract? Interesting. We can also tell that it is a secret, not a patented process that's being done too. That's interesting. If it was patented, they would have to disclose the process, and they'd only have so many years before others could copy them. Whereas if they keep the recipe a secret, they can keep it secret for as long as it's secret, just like Coca-Cola does with their recipe. I was going to email and ask them these questions, but then I realized that they were just going to say that they can't tell me anyway, so I figured I'd save both of us time. And please do keep in mind that these live ferments do take a lot of time and expense on our end, so check out our website for ways to support us, please. Thank you. Alright, here we are about 12 hours in. Nothing really exciting's happened up to now. We got some yeast dancing around, but nothing too exciting. Most exciting part is that Phil forgot to reset the timer. So it's at 31 days, so we black it out until it's relevant. But the first thing that we are noticing is how much higher the specific gravity is for the flash kit than it is for the DME. And spoiler alert, that gap is going to get bigger before it gets smaller. We'll focus on that when we get the peak, but for now, let's focus on this ring. We believe this to be a sign that the yeast is leaving the lag phase and moving on to the exponential growth phase. And hey, look, one's starting over here too, although it's happening slower, as if it's having trouble digesting the DME. This isn't the first time we've seen this during a live ferment, but it is something that we didn't really get taught a lot in school. So if a sciencey person could let us know what's physically happening here in the comments, that'd be great. But as previously stated, we believe this to be the yeast exiting the lag phase and moving on to exponential. This is because that once it hits the ground, we start to see the fermentation fog, as I like to call it. This is where the perceived clarity starts to drop due to the activity of the yeast fermentation. So while we might not be able to see yeast without a microscope, we can see the evidence of its activity without one. And an oddity that I'm seeing in the DME side is there's another ring, slowly rising to the top. The Flash Malt extract did not have a ring that floated to the top, only to the bottom, and it happened much faster. Whereas the DME rings were much lighter and moved slower. Even though the pitch time was only about a half hour apart, the move from lag to exponential phase is happening about 4 hours later. So as we can see already that the flash kit is fermenting a lot faster, harder, and started quicker. Also, look at how much higher the specific gravity is already. At 1041 versus 1018, yeah, that's a pretty big difference. Meaning that somewhat silly claim that MoreBeer made about the yeast doing the mixing so you don't have to is somewhat true. I mean, I still like the idea of shaking it so that you get some oxygen in there for like yeast health, but I mean, the kits are fermenting very well. And I've made flash brew kits before, and I know they taste fine. It's just not amazing beer, but, you know, it's for first-time brewers. Wait, stop. We're getting distracted. Hey, look, we've moved on to high krausen on the flash kit already. It is going vigorous. I mean, they're both fermenting pretty hard. They've both hit about their peaks, but that flash kit is going that much harder. And I believe it to be that the flash malt is just that much easier for the yeast to eat. And as a reminder, the flash yeast is being used in both kits. The only thing I've changed is the malt extract. And please remember that Phil is an amateur scientist, which is why his equipment fails from time to time. Oh, it's back. And check it out, the gravity readings are suspiciously close together. And yes, please explain it to us in the comments about how the tilt hydrometers aren't getting a completely accurate reading. You're right, and that ABV approximation is extremely weird, especially during this batch since the sugars weren't completely distributed before they started logging. The only reason that the flash kit is a bit more accurate is because of how fast the flash malt dissolved. Whereas the DME, on the other hand, is still dissolving as fermentation started. So the ABV is struggling to rise as the gravity is rising at the same time the alcohol is increasing. And yes, this could have been avoided by stirring the DME ahead of time, but that would have defeated the purpose of the experiment where we wanted it to be more of a one-to-one comparison. However, we do have more experiments lined up, such as comparing the yeasts, where we will do 2 kits where we do everything identical except for we will change out the flash yeast with a more strain-specific style. We'll also reach out to MoreBeer to see if they have any input on what they'd like to see and if they'd like to divulge any information as well. And one final note before we head into the stationary phase, time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so. But an extended cut is available on our live ferment channel. But back to the fermentation. Now we're headed into the stationary phase where we've reached the peak, and that's about when we start to see the CO2 start to gather inside. And despite the name of stationary, this is when the airlock will be having the most action inside. This is when the yeast will be doing most of the heavy lifting. And as we can see, they're basically identical at this point. And other than flavor, they're going to remain that way until the end. So we can tell that the difference in the malt is mostly in the front end. And a big difference, especially when it comes to a first-time brewer who may be freaking out that DME doesn't just naturally dissolve as well as the flash malt extract will, thus making a easier time of relaxing and enjoying a homebrew. Don't worry about it. The one thing I am noticing now is that there is a little difference. The krausen ring on the flash malt is thicker than it is on the DME side, though that's probably just because the fermentation was more vigorous and therefore lifted higher by the krausen. Although I don't think that's really a high priority to make comments on. And since fermentation is basically done at this point, now's probably a good time to make notes about the graph. They're very different. That flash brew definitely mixes better by itself in the very beginning and then gets to fermenting and acting like a normal beer sooner. Whereas the DME took far longer to self-mix, and even then, it kind of struggled like a hurdle. We want to see those sharp points. Doing a hump like that just leaves time for things to go wrong. And it's going to be hard to tell if there's been any sugar that's left behind that's clumped, as it will blend in with the troop, and once it's covered by troop, it's probably not gonna self-stir back in. So stirring regular DME is important if you're not going to boil. But since the DME kit does turn out mostly fine, then that means the only real reason we're boiling at this point in extract kits is to isomerize the hops. With the dirtiest ingredient being the grains, if you don't have grains in the kit, then you don't really need to boil it. However, you're missing out on a lot of flavor potential. Also, I don't think big brew corporations are just tricking us into boiling our beers. I think there's a reason why we want to do it most of the time. It's just fine in this occasion. And wow, that flash yeast really did a number. It's a bit light than I'd like it. But you know what? Let's move on to kegging. We'll let these sit in the kegs for a couple of days, see if we can get a little natural carbonation before we put them on the CO2. This also just will give it a little time to make sure the yeast has cleaned up all the esters and everything else that could be creating off flavors. And 2 weeks later, we have beers in little glasses. It's nice to be reminded that there's a reason why we do all this fermentation, and that is to enjoy a drink from time to time. The first thing we notice is that, head retention's still a problem. That's going to be true for most extract kits. You know, it looked great when we first poured it, but in about the 3 minutes it took to set the scene up, it had already dropped down to this, which is better than what I've seen at some professional breweries, so it's not nothing. And I could tell by the numbers that these were going to be a little thin, a little dry. I think that has something to do with the flash yeast being a little aggressive. But what we did notice is, without being compared, the Flash Malt kit tasted good enough on its own, but when compared to the DME, was a little thinner and a little more acidic. The non-beer drinkers in the studio noted that the DME tasted a little beerier, though they're not Cicerone certified, so I wouldn't trust them completely. The hops were a bit muted, but at the same time it's a blonde ale, so it's still within style guidelines. For me, the biggest fault was that the malt profile, on the other hand, was very one-dimensional, which is to be expected when all your malt flavor is coming from just DME. This could be a fault of the water profile, as we did use bottled spring water, but the recipe does recommend RO, so we wonder maybe some water treatment would go a long way to help with the depth of the beer flavor. However, we did enjoy this whole process from start to finish, and we found that both kits were acceptable beers in the end. However, we would not enter them into any contest, or call ourselves master brewers just because we made it. But if you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, don't forget, happy brewing.